most people hear the word diplomacy, they probably think of people in suits and jackets roaming the halls of the United Nations headquarters in New York City or in the capital of a powerful country. They've dedicated their entire lives and careers to politics. It's a common misconception that diplomacy is a skill limited to an exclusive club of people. And when you look at the greats like Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, it's hard not to think that. But let's start debunking that misconception by defining diplomacy. The Cambridge Dictionary says that diplomacy is the management of relations between countries or skill in dealing with people without offending or upsetting them. But in my experience, diplomacy is so much more than that. To me, diplomacy is the ability to navigate society and address life's challenges with finesse and ease. It's a set of skills that includes public speaking, communication, collaboration, problem solving, adaptability, and empathy. These are skills that are vital to contributing to your community and your own personal development. Whether you're a doctor, politician, construction worker, janitor, or the IT guy. And if you're a student, they're arguably even more important because these skills will shape the way that you learn about the world and what you study. For me, the meaning of diplomacy first became clear through my involvement with Model United Nations. In Model UN, students simulate the United Nations by stepping into the shoes of a diplomat and representing a country to solve global issues. It's an incredible simulation where students get the opportunity to learn about how we can work together to change our world. And as I gained experience with Model UN, I began to recognize that it was a powerful method of teaching students diplomacy. But I also began to realize that there was a significant problem with Model UN. Most students who had access to Model UN were the ones who needed it the least, coming from high-income, English-speaking language backgrounds. And students who came from lower-income backgrounds were unable to afford the conference and travel fees, much less the expensive educational resources on the intricacies of Model UN. Beyond income, students who spoke languages other than English found themselves unable to learn diplomacy and all the skills that come with it because the majority of resources were only available in English. That's why I founded Model UN Academy, an edtech nonprofit that got me recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 at 17 years old. Now, some of you might not believe in the value of diplomacy for everyday students. Yeah, it's great for people who want to work or do work at the United Nations, but what about the rest of us? In my experience, when you give ordinary people the tools for diplomacy, we gain the ability to change the world. For example, let me tell you about Sem Teferi, a Model UN Academy fellow. Sem's an ordinary high school student living in Ethiopia. But unfortunately, during his childhood, his parents struggled with mental health illness. And his community didn't respond as well as Sem would have hoped. But instead of doing nothing about it, Sem decided to take that leap and address the issue through the practice and application of diplomacy. So as a fellow, with the guidance and resources of Model UN Academy, Sem launched Pulse, a platform for youth mental health advocacy. When local leaders didn't want to talk about mental health illness, Sem didn't argue. He used diplomatic empathy. So he started by trying to understand why they were afraid of something that they didn't know, their misconceptions about mental health illnesses. And that led to the introduction of his platform. That is diplomacy in action. And he's not the only one. Through my experience with Model UN Academy, the United Nations Association of the USA, and Med Global, I've met hundreds of everyday people of all ages and professions applying diplomacy in their everyday lives. So what does this look like? It might look like Dawn Callahan, a marketing professional who utilizes her personal brand and consulting business to promote the United Nations and its initiatives. It might look like Himaja Najareddy, the 11th Youth Observer to the United Nations and a Model UN Academy Advisory Board member. She merged her interests in diplomacy and biology to study health policy, and later applied it to her work at the CDC and the Kennedy Krieger Institute. It might look like my parents, who sent their kids to Model UN camps in middle school so we could learn these skills called diplomacy. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's inspiring, Momin. Real great stuff. But what does this have to do with me? Sem is a superstar fellow. Himaja is an expert. Dawn is a seasoned professional. I'm just trying to get through my 9 to 5 without losing my temper at my boss or through my school day without falling asleep. My answer? Everything. The world is suffering from a diplomacy deficit. We see it in our polarized politics. We feel it in our dinner table conversations and our community boards. We have lost the ability to disagree without dividing ourselves. But if you aren't in a closed-door meeting on Capitol Hill, you can still do something about this. So what do? How do you fix this diplomacy deficit without a UN badge? The answer is you become a citizen diplomat. What does that mean? For me, it comes down to 3 tangible things. 1, translation. Through Model UN Academy, I've realized the power of translation in empowering everyday people to do amazing things. And I don't mean translating into other languages, but I mean translating emotions into action. When a friend or a colleague is getting mad at you or arguing about something, instead of yelling back or escalating the conflict, a true citizen diplomat looks and listens. They understand the emotions that they see and translate them into actions that need to be taken. So, the next time you're in an argument, stop listening to respond and start listening to translate, and then de-escalation will happen immediately. 2, collaboration. In the United Nations, one diplomat can't pass a resolution alone. You need votes. That same concept applies to everyday life. But most people try to push through their problems alone, unwilling to seek help. Being a citizen diplomat means finding who your unlikely allies are. So if there's a pothole on your street, don't just email the city or complain to your family. Instead, gather your neighbors, including the ones you usually don't agree with, and work together on the one thing you do agree about, being the trouble of the pothole. Each of you sign a letter, present it to your local leadership. Change happens best with collaboration. Or if you're a student, maybe the school cafeteria stopped serving the only meal that everyone actually liked. Instead of just whining about it with your friends, gather everyone who sits at your lunch table and the people who sit at other lunch tables, even if you don't talk to them. Go to the school administration with a united front. The impact you have is exponentially multiplied when you work with others. 3, compromise. We live in a world where it's all or nothing. You either win or you lose. But a citizen diplomat understands that a partial win is a victory. It's better to move the needle 10% in convincing a family member of something rather than 0% and a ruined dinner. And sometimes that means that you have to give in too and open yourself up to new perspectives. We call that compromise. When you look at things with the lens and perspective of a citizen diplomat, you open yourself up to a world of new possibilities. Diplomacy can be personal, professional, or both. But the key takeaway is that the world doesn't just change in the General Assembly Hall of the United Nations. It changes in the quiet, diplomatic moments between two best friends letting go of an argument to preserve their friendship, between the love a parent feels for their child, and between a mentor and a student with the respect they feel for each other. So my challenge to you is this. The next time you face a conflict or a challenge, don't argue. Stop, take a deep breath, translate, collaborate, and compromise. This is diplomacy. And this is the thing that the world needs in order to wake up, face its problems, and save humanity from itself. Thank you.